Hey guys, this is Megasoft Pro. How's everyone doing? Today I'm going to be showing you this awesome tutorial on how to make this lava sphere. You could use this for your intro or pretty much anything you want. And this is my second video on After Effects. A lot more will be coming, so let's check out a preview. Okay guys, that was pretty cool. So before we get started, I just want to explain what we're using here. I'm using a Saber 3D plugin called Saber. It's from videocopilot.net. I will leave a link down in the description for that. And I'm using a radial scale wipe for this cool effect around it, as you can see, and a flare. And for the background, I just used a grid. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, go ahead and add a new composition. And we're going to call this intro. Keep it at 1920 by 1080, 30 frames per second, 10 seconds, and make sure the background color is black. Click OK. So before we get started, if you don't have the Effects and Presets window, go ahead and add it. Go to Window, Effects and Presets, because we're going to be using it a lot. So right click and we're going to make a new solid. We're going to call this Saber. Keep it at any color you want because it's going to change anyways. So if we search Saber, now the plugin is for free and I did leave a link down in the description, so go ahead and download it. And as you can see, if we go to preset here, there's a lot of presets pre-made, so you could use whichever you want, but you know, so the one we're going to be using is Meteor, as you can see. Okay, and if you hold click on the rectangular tool, the ellipse tool, and we're going to draw a small circle. Make sure it's not too big. That's pretty good. And go ahead to Customize Core, Layer Masks. And you should see something like this. And we're going to go ahead and further this out to 20 pixels. Okay, that's pretty good. And now we're done here. Okay, so go ahead to Mode and put it on Screen. And now we're going to create a new adjustment layer. And we're going to add CC Radial Scale Wipe. So just type CC. And as you can see, add that in here. And we're going to name this to Radial. Okay, so reverse transition. And as you can see, it gives us this kind of circle around our Saber effect. So we're going to centerize this. Now this doesn't have to be exactly perfect. 64.5 maybe. You could pause this video and determining on what kind of size you have your circle, so you can, you know, take your time, doesn't really matter. As I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so now go ahead and toggle the switches and we're going to put this on 3D and we're going to move on to our next step. Okay, so now we're going to add our flare. Right click, new, solid, and we'll call this flare. And it doesn't matter what color it is, it's going to change anyways. Put this on screen and search flare. Add optical flares and go ahead to options. I'm sorry this screen is very small, but there's nothing really I can do. For some reason it's, you know, the text is really small, but it doesn't really matter. Go to Preset Browser, Natural Flares. Once you open that, scroll down and you should see Sanker 16. Click on that. And right here, hide this big one right here. And go to Lens Objects and add a glow. And decrease the brightness to 100% and keep this at 25. Now add a streak and decrease the brightness to 90. Okay, that looks pretty nice. And put this from add to screen. Put this on screen. And that's all we have to do here. Click OK. And you should see something like this. Okay. Go ahead to the brightness and we're going to make this 85. And the scale 96. And now we have something like this. Change the color to a dark orange, maybe to a red, something like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Maybe we'll put the brightness up to 87. That looks a bit better. Okay, so now we're going to animate everything we've done here. And to do that, we're going to go ahead to our position. And we're just going to put this somewhere right here. Add a keyframe. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead to the beginning. And now add a keyframe. And go ahead to about 3 seconds maybe. And we'll move the position to somewhere right here. Okay, so what that does is it just moves it from this position to this position. Go ahead to 0 seconds and go ahead to Saber. Open that, go to Customize Core, it should be opened, and start offset, put this on 100. Start a keyframe, go to about 3 seconds, and make this 0. So now, as you can see, it just starts. Same thing to the radial. Open that, and go to the beginning, put a keyframe, put this on 5, 3 seconds, and put this on 64. And now, as you can see, this is how it starts. That looks pretty cool so far. Okay, now we're going to create our text. So right click, new text. We're going to call this MSP. Now make sure your text is 3 letters, or else if it's bigger, then you have to make the circle bigger. And it won't look good. So just keep it like that. Make the color white, the stroke black. And I'm using a font called Autobahan. If you don't have this, I will leave a link down in the description for this. And it's a pretty cool font, so you could use this. And we can just put this in the center. And go ahead to Effects and Presets. And we're going to search in, just type 4, scroll down, color gradient, 4 color gradient. And we're going to put this on MSP. Going to go ahead and put it right here. And as you can see, it affected our CC radial scale white. Go ahead to 0 setting. I'm sorry this is slow, but determining on what kind of PC you're using, it's going to be faster. So go ahead to Saber and copy our Saber effect. Paste it in our Megasoft text and close that. Okay, go ahead here. Now let's move in and go to alpha mode, enable masks, and customize core. Instead of layer masks, put text layer, and make sure you put it on the text. So it's number 4 right here, it should be 4 right there. And once you do that, it should look something like this. Go to the glow intensity and make this 40%. Okay, that looks pretty nice. And as you can see, let's just check a preview. Now it's not perfectly lining up, so go to text and click U, go to the Saber and click U, and as you can see, we can see how the keyframes are, and we're just going to move this up just a bit, or maybe a bit more, so it could exactly line up with our Saber. So as you can see, that looks really cool. And it's all down to personal preference. And if you click U on radial and flare, you could see all the keyframes, and you can move them, to suit how you want it to be. So if you want the flare to move after, it doesn't really matter. So, okay, let's just close out of these. Okay. let's head to our next step. Okay, now we're going to add our water effect. So go ahead and right click, new adjustment layer. We're going to rename this, call it water. So it's kind of like a water electric effect we're going to give it. And put this under Saber. Put the mode on screen. Toggle switches and remove this. Now if you don't have toggle switches, just click F4 on your keyboard, so it doesn't really matter. And we're going to go ahead and search radio waves. Just click that, drag that here, my bad, drag that on our water. And go ahead to about 3.5 seconds. As you can see, it's generating this circle kind of elapse. So go ahead here, click, and we're going to give it a mask. So just draw a mask. Okay, and open the mask, click on opacity so we can edit our mask. Click on our selective tool, zoom in just a bit, and click H on your keyboard to drag. Now instead of going here every second, you can just use the shortcut H and let go to get back. And as you can see, try to fill it up to about here. And if it's not really visible, the color of your mask isn't really visible, you can't see, just change the color. Make it to somewhere like green so we can see it better. As you can see, it's a lot more visible. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, that should be fine. And go ahead and click fit. And now instead of polygon wave type, click on mask, mask 1, or mask 1 here. So put mask 1 here. And as you can see, okay, now we're just going to change a few of the settings. So go to frequency, put that 0.2, and our direction to 130, and our end width to 6. Okay, that should be pretty good. Now we're going to change the color and make it a dark orange, something like that. That looks pretty nice. Okay, and now we're going to add Mr. Mercury. Now here's where the magic comes. As you can see, it's just generating a circle. Okay, I'm sorry, it's getting a bit slow. It's because, you know, it's determining on the speed you have on your laptop. As you can see, it's generating a circle. We want the water effect, so to do that, just add Mr. Mercury. Okay, once we add that in here, as you can see, it's giving us, hold on just a second. As you can see, it's giving us a water effect. Just like that. So, down here, and we're going to change just a bit of the settings as well. Okay, so this to 9, 32, and the velocity to 1.4, birth rate to 1.6, and the gravity to 0.3. But you know, 0.5. Okay, that's a lot better. And that's pretty much it. We're just going to put this to 0.20. That should look pretty good. Now, as you can see, it's only generating it in every about 2 seconds. You can play around with the frequency. So if we put frequency to around 0.4 or 0.5, it's going to generate one every second or so, or less even. I'm sorry, my PC is a bit slow, but it just needs to be a bit faster. As you can see, it's just generating. It's all to personal preference, so I'm just gonna, I don't want mine to show a lot, so 0.25 maybe should be good. Goes out of that. And now we're gonna duplicate our water. Go ahead, Control D, and as you can see, water 2. And we're just gonna change a bit of the settings here. So go on the radius and click 41 and the Y radius at 5. So as you can see, now it gives us a really cool effect here. And it looks a lot better if we duplicate because we want more than one, as you can see. Okay, so now we're done here. Now we're going to add our particles. So go ahead and click New, Adjustment Layer, and we're going to name this Particles. Put this on screen, and let's add our particles here. Particle Playground, add that in. Now we're not going to be using Particular from Trapcode because it's a third-party plugin and it's prepaid, so you're going to have to pay for it. Here, this one's for free, it's built in, so it's better. It's not better, but anyways, we're just going to use it. So we're going to be changing a lot of the settings here. So go ahead to Canon and the barrel radius to 250. The particle per second, we're going to change that in just a second. The direction as well, we're just going to change that in just a second as well. And the velocity to 30, you know what, to 40, better. And velocity random spread to 1550. And for the color, you know, that looks pretty good. Okay, so now head to gravity, and we're going to change this to 105, that's better, 0.09, keep that on to 180. Okay, so as you can see, the particles are spreading, and we want to keep them in our circle. So if we turn that off for just a second, we want to keep them in this circle right here. So go ahead and click on the particles, add a mask, a circle, so just make one. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you know. Go ahead and open mask 1, click on opacity to edit our mask. And like I said, use the H tool. It's a lot easier. There we go. Okay, that should look pretty good. Okay, now if we turn that on, as you can see, it's going to look like this. So go ahead and toggle the switches and turn this off, black and white, turn that off. And as you can see, we have it right here. And to enable our mask inside our particle playground, go on to wall, boundary, and mask 1. And as you can see, it's only going to be inside the mask. So they're going to bounce off the mask. They won't go outside or anything. And as you can see, we have a lot of particles and we don't want that much. So I want to close out of those. And before we change the amount of our particles, we're just going to go to the direction and we're going to add an expression. So click Alt on your keyboard and click on the time watch so we can add an expression. And you should see this. It doesn't matter if the red thing here. Okay, go ahead and type wiggle, open bracket, 10, comma, 100, period, close bracket. Now, instead of putting keyframes on our direction, you know, so it can move and stuff, we put a wiggle. And what a wiggle does, it just gives random numbers to 100. So it won't go past 100. It's going to give it like 50, 35, 36, 37, like that. And it looks pretty cool. As you can see, it's just giving us random numbers right here. Anyways, let's go ahead and animate or put a keyframe on our particles per second. So go ahead and put this 15. We don't want too much, so we're going to go around at 4 seconds or so. And we're going to put this at 0, I'm going to go to 4 seconds. Put a keyframe. Somewhere about to 5.5 maybe, something like that. We're going to put that on 10. Move a couple of, 6.5 maybe. Put that on 15. Now I know that's not a lot, but I don't want a lot of particles in my animation here. But you can add a lot, you can add how much you want. And as you can see, they're increasing by time. As you can see, so. And they look pretty good, so. We're going to close out of this. Okay, and now we're going to go to our final step, which is our background. So let's go ahead to our final step. Okay, so go ahead and add a new adjustment layer and rename this and call it BG for background. And go ahead and search grid. Now I want a soft background that isn't really visible, so go ahead and add grid and put blending mode on overlay, and we'll go ahead and create a new mask. So we're just going to make it fit our sphere. Go ahead and click here, open our mask, click on opacity so we can edit our mask. And as I said before, it doesn't have to be perfect, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, that's pretty good. And go ahead, instead of add, put subtract. As you can see, now it's not getting affected by our sphere. And go ahead and put the feather around 95%. Good. And go ahead to the opacity and click on 12. Put it on 12, and as you can see, you get something like this. And click invert grid. And now you get something like this. As I said, I don't really want it to be visible, so it's just like a soft background. If you want, you can turn up the opacity, it doesn't really matter, to something like 15 or 20. It's down to personal preference. Okay, so go ahead and toggle the switches now. And turn on motion blur for both of the water and on our flare, and turn on motion blur here. It gives it, just like a nice look. And we're pretty much done. That's pretty much it, guys. And maybe we can, just click on water too and click on shift and on water. Go ahead and push these to about maybe something like right here. So it lands, and put this, okay, just like that, and drag one of them behind the other just a bit. It looks a lot better that way. That looks pretty much it. And if you want, you guys can go to the water and make this a bit darker and look better, maybe. As you can see, this one's a bit darker. It doesn't really matter. It's down to personal preference. Okay, so we're pretty much done. That's it, guys. I just want to say a couple of things before we end this tutorial. This channel is new. This is my second video on After Effects, so I'm really trying hard and I'm working. This video took a lot of effort to make. Took a lot of time, and I did pause it a couple of times, in the video, because it's not easy at all to make this. I would really like, a like and a comment, maybe a subscribe. You can comment anything you like, a question or anything, related to this topic, or pretty much anything you want. You can ask. I'm really good at After Effects. If you have any question on this project or anything else, and go ahead and check out my previous video, which was a pretty cool thing about making an intro. And that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you very, very much for watching. I appreciate your time. This is Megasoft Pro. See you guys later.